Well, hey there guys, and welcome back. On this week's show, we're going to be making a Christmas ornament. I know what you're thinking. The summer's not even over and Kenny's already talking about Christmas ornaments. Well, it doesn't matter what time of year you make these things. Better to make them now and have plenty of time to do it than to try to rush at Christmas time. But this is, I think, a fun little project. It's going to be a lathe project, and it's going to be one that's going to be spectacular for using up scraps. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to gather up some different species from the wood rack, different scraps of different thicknesses, and we're going to get into those dimensions in just a bit. But for me, we're going to be looking at walnut, cherry, maple, and ebony. Well, this is a great project to use up scraps, and for all the pieces, they will all be cut into 1 1/8 by 1 1/8 inch squares. The only thing that differs is the thickness. So I have 5 pieces of cherry at 1/4 inch thick. I have 4 pieces of walnut at 1/4 inch thick. I have 2 pieces of 1/8 inch thick ebony, and I have 2 pieces of 1/2 inch thick maple. And there is some great contrast here, but you can see there's not a lot of material that's actually used. So now the way that we want to stack these is we want to put maple, and then we're going to put ebony, and then we're going to put maple, and then we're going to put ebony, and then we're going to put cherry, followed by walnut, followed by cherry, followed by walnut. You get what I'm doing here? Followed by cherry, followed by walnut, followed by cherry, followed by walnut, and we're going to finish it off with a piece of cherry. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue all of these together just like this. Now, they don't have to be perfectly aligned and perfectly square to each other. And if you want, you can alternate grains. You can do whatever you like with this. Now, it's all up to you. But this here will be essentially what you're looking for. So let's get these glued together. I've placed some wax paper down on my bench because honestly, there's nothing I hate more than getting glue all over my bench. You don't want to go crazy on the glue here because you don't want these pieces sliding all over. So what we're going to do is we're just going to go little bit by little bit here. And once we get these glued together, we're going to give the glue a little bit of time to sort of tack up. Maybe 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes. And once we get that tacky, then we're going to clamp it all together. And that essentially is our blank or our block and the makeup of it all the way through. Now, there's not much that we can do with it now until the glue dries. So I guess while we're waiting for the glue to dry, I can entertain you guys with the story of my life. Let's start at the beginning. In 1968, way back then, there was this cute little guy that was born, and he was born, it was me. And as time was more handsome than what you would ever imagine a 6-year-old could be. I mean, it was he knew about woodworking. And so he ventured forth. Of course, he ended up graduating high school, still as cute as a button, and yet two little girls, cute as buttons, almost as cute as Dad, but fortunately they looked more like Mom. I believe it was 2013 the channel was born, and here it was on YouTube, and you guys all joined in and it grew. And of course that brings us to today. And at this point in time, now that our story is done, our blank is dry as well. So if you made it through this foolishness, what we need to do now is go over and unclamp this blank. Well, it's actually been a couple days and our blank is dried up. I'm just going to mark the center at each end of this, and then we're going to take it over to the lathe and we're going to mount it between centers. Well, the first thing that we want to do on this project, now that we have it mounted, is to turn it round. So we're just going to rough turn it. Well, now that we have it rough turned, we want to concentrate on this area here, from the bottom of the ebony all the way down to the last piece of cherry. And we want to taper this in to a nice taper, stopping at the base of the ebony here. Now you can see that I'm not going all the way to the ebony because I'm going to use a detailer to get in there and get the nice clean corner. So we'll just continue tapering this, and I guess I'll see you when I finish the taper. Well, I may refine that taper a little more. I'm not exactly sure just yet, but what I want to do now is take down this top. So we're only going to take it down from the top of the ebony up to here. We're just going to kind of cut it in and make a bit of a dome shape at the top. And the next step that we want to do is I want to bring this section here down. Now, as you have probably already figured out, we're making a lighthouse. So this is the area that will hold the light, or will be representative of that. So we're just going to trim this down to make it a little more proportionate to the rest of the project. And lastly, I think I'd like to make this maple section here a little bit recessed of what it is on the ebony. So I'll just do that now, and then we need to straighten this out as well here. It's a little bit woogity at this point here, so we're going to straighten that out as well. And as long as we're happy now with our shape, it's time to sand it. So I'm going to sand this through the grits until I get the finish that I want. And then we're going to apply a finish on this piece. So because this is an ornament, I think I'm going to be using a CA finish on this. So we're going to apply the first coat. I'm not going to go through how to actually do the CA finish. I have a tutorial for that here on my channel, and I'll post a link for it in the description so that you guys can find that video. So either way, let's get the CA protection on here and we'll get it all buffed up, and then I'll come back and see you. And now that we have the finish on it, we'll just remove it and take it over to the bench, because there's one more thing that we need to do. Well, in order to hang our ornament, of course, we need some kind of a hook. And I have a small eye hook here. We're just going to use a jeweler's drill and drill a pilot hole right down through the top of our lighthouse. Just like that. And then we'll clear away the dust. And we can screw our eye hook now into our hole. Now I always have problems screwing these in with my hands. That's why I have the pliers there. It goes in so far and then my fingers just don't want to work anymore. So if you want to use pliers, you can do that as well. Just like that. And there you have it. A lighthouse inspired ornament. Guys, this is a great little project for using up scrap material. You saw how much was actually used with just 1/4 inch thick squares that are 1 1/8 by 1 1/8, and you end up with a great little project. It's a lot of fun to turn that is basically doable by the most simple or basic of lathe turning skills. I used mostly easy turn chisels on this thing, so I didn't have to worry about angles and that sort of thing, which made it even easier. Guys, it's a lot of fun and you can play around with it. If you don't have different species, make it out of a solid piece and paint it. It's not that hard, it's just a cute little ornament. Branch out, use some pyrography or wood burning, burn doors in it, burn windows, maybe burn those stripes around instead of using different species. There's all kinds of things that you can do with this to make it your own, and you don't have to duplicate exactly what I've done here. Experiment, play around. That's half the fun of being in the shop. Guys, I want to thank you for tuning in this week. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe. Click the bell so that you don't miss notification of future shows. I hope you've enjoyed the project today as much as I've enjoyed bringing it to you, and I hope that you join me again next week when I bring you yet another woodworking video.